You're not kind. You are trapped. Here's how Stoics break free from this paradox of pleasing people. You may pride yourself on generosity, on always putting others first, on saying yes even when your gut screams no. You believe that kindness means sacrifice, that bending your will for someone else's comfort is proof of your compassion. But beneath that well-meaning act lies a mounting exhaustion, a quiet despair that no compliment or gratitude can erase. Every concession you make chisels away at your sense of self. Each time you swallow your true feeling to maintain the peace, you deposit a small piece of your autonomy into everyone else's hands. You wake each morning carrying the weight of unspoken resentments and invisible debts, believing that harmony lies outside you and that your value depends on the mood of those around you. You're trapped by the illusion that forced generosity equals virtue. You feel compelled to appear helpful and agreeable, as though your worth were measured by the number of favors you perform. That illusion creates a cycle of self-betrayal. You lavish the world with kindness and kindness, yet your spirit feels hollow. You anticipate the next request, the next demand, the next expectation, and dread sets in before the words are even spoken. Behind your courteous greeting and your eager response lies a wariness bred by years of bending to others' will. You cannot remember the last time you acted solely for yourself, free from the need for approval or reward. Imagine a candle burning at both ends. You have lit yourself aflame with good intentions, yet you cannot sustain the glow without consuming every last drop of your wax. Forced generosity is like that candle. It burns brightly, but it shortens your life. In its light you perform miracles of diplomacy and displays of support, but the cost is your reserve, your resilience, your ability to know what you truly want. You lose sight of your own needs because you equate self-care with selfishness. You apologize for your own desires as though they were crimes, and you carry guilt for simply existing on your own terms. The Stoics recognized that genuine kindness arises not from exhaustion, but from strength. They taught that virtue flows from reasoned choice, not from reflexive compliance. Kindness should spring from clarity, from knowing your own boundaries and offering help with a free heart. When Marcus Aurelius counseled himself to greet each day as if he had chosen it, he reminded himself to act intentionally, not passively. He understood that our actions acquire meaning only when they align with our highest principles. Forced generosity, in contrast, is hollow because it lacks choice. It is a transaction in which you pay a hidden toll, your self-respect. Now confront the exhaustion of forced generosity. Notice the tension in your shoulders when you say yes. Feel the sinking sensation in your chest when you realize you have promised more than you can deliver. Listen to the whisper of resentment that follows every good deed performed out of obligation. These signals are not betrayals. They are your inner compass pointing toward the boundaries you have ignored. Honoring those boundaries does not make you selfish. It makes you whole. It makes your kindness sustainable. It transforms your generosity from a drip of obligation into a fountain of genuine care. Freeing yourself from this trap begins with a simple shift in judgment. Recognize that you are not being unkind when you choose yourself. You are being kind in the deepest sense, kind to your own soul. The Stoics reminded us that the only thing truly within our control is our own will. Your choices define your character far more than any external circumstance. When you decline a request that clashes with your values or stretches you beyond your means, you are exercising the very virtue of wisdom. You are speaking honestly. You are living in accordance with reason. So this is the moment to pause and reflect on every time you have reacted instead of responded. Every time you have defaulted to compliance rather than assess the cost. Those moments have shaped the prison in which you find yourself, but knowing the walls is the first step to dismantling them. The exhaustion you feel is the signal that your spirit craves alignment, not acquiescence. When you begin to honor your own limits, you do not abandon kindness. You model a more powerful kindness, one rooted in integrity. You free your energy to help where you can and to withdraw gracefully when you cannot. This path does not lead to coldness. It leads to clarity and compassion that springs from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. It is the path of true generosity, unburdened by guilt or fear. It is the Stoic way, and it begins with recognizing that forced generosity is not kindness at all, but a subtle form of self-imprisonment. As you step forward, keep your attention on the choices you make, on the weight you carry for the sake of others, and on the freedom that awaits when you give generously, but according to your own reasoned will. Let this be the awakening of your own power to choose to give and to live in freedom. Let us move forward together, and every time you suppress it, you give a little more authority to everyone else. That superpower is your no. You might think, no is rude, or that it will earn you a reputation as a miserable curmudgeon. In truth, declining a request simply says, I respect both your need and my own. Without that simple boundary, you're playing a never-ending game in which everyone else sets the rules and you're forced to follow. When you swallow your no, you exchange control for a faint pat on the back. You've probably heard yourself say, sure, I can take on that extra project, only to spend the next week dreaming of a small island with nobody to email you. Every unspoken objection builds up like unfiled paperwork. Eventually it buries your enthusiasm under a pile of regret. The Stoics taught that the things within your control are your own judgments and choices. If you never exercise choice, you surrender your freedom. By muting that one small word, you clip the wings of your own agency. It's a bit like wearing your shoes one size too small because you're worried someone else might trip over the extra space. You fret about filling that void in someone else's schedule or expectations, while your own toes scream for air. Saying no isn't a rejection of another person. It's a declaration of self-respect. You don't need to apologize for preserving your energy. The real offense lies in promising what you cannot deliver, then showing up half-heartedly. It's far kinder to decline than to commit and collapse under the weight of overextension. With every misplaced yes, your power to choose diminishes. You become a guest in your own life, attending events you never wanted to RSVP for, fulfilling obligations that didn't align with your values. Imagine attending a party dressed in someone else's clothes, dancing to a song you dislike, and smiling because you feel you must. That is exactly how it feels to live without exercising your no. The Stoics remind us that freedom begins with clear assent or dissent, not in mindless compliance. Number 3, avoiding conflict at integrity's expense. Once you've muted your no, you start to believe that conflict is a raging beast to be feared, rather than a signal that something needs attention. You picture every disagreement as a fire-breathing dragon, when in reality it's more like a curious cat poking at a curtain. Startling, yes, but not deadly. Conflict handled reasonably sharpens your convictions and clears the air. When you avoid it at all costs, you leave unspoken tensions to fester until they erupt in passive-aggressive hissy fits or silent treatments. Avoiding conflict at the expense of your own integrity is like refusing to replace the warning light on your car dashboard. Sure, you keep driving, but the risk you're ignoring grows by the mile. Your values flicker in low battery mode whenever you tiptoe around the truth in hopes of preserving superficial peace. You convince yourself that keeping everyone comfortable is an act of kindness, but kindness without honesty is a kindness that unravels at the first tug of misunderstanding. Stoicism teaches that conflict is a natural part of human interactions. Marcus Aurelius wrote about meeting people with the same patience you have meeting a rock in your shoe. You might wince, but you don't throw the rock away. You simply adjust your step. Similarly, you can address disagreements calmly and firmly, without falling into an angry tirade or a doormat posture. Conflict used wisely polishes relationships. It does not destroy them. When you avoid speaking up, you send the message that your perspective doesn't matter, and over time, your voice becomes a whisper in a crowded room. You miss opportunities to correct misconceptions, to stand up for your values, and to grow through honest discussion. Rather than fearing conflict, embrace it as a dialogue. Replace the dread of a potential argument with the excitement of clarifying misunderstandings and strengthening bonds. Lighten up the process by remembering that nearly every conflict contains a kernel of absurdity. Next time you feel your stomach knot at the thought of confrontation, Imagine both parties speaking in silly accents. Ridiculous, yes, but humor diffuses tension and reminds you that this moment too will pass. You might even find that a well-timed joke can turn a heated exchange into a productive chat and keep your integrity intact without sacrificing camaraderie. By reclaiming your no and learning to navigate conflict with calm resolve, you restore two pillars of personal sovereignty. You speak true to yourself, and you refuse to let fear of discomfort dictate your choices. In doing so, you break free of invisible chains, no longer a hostage to endless demands or silent resentments. You begin to live by your own standards, rather than by the shifting whims of external approval. As we continue, you'll see how these shifts set the stage for breaking even deeper traps, and how to replace people-pleasing habits with genuine, stoic freedom. For now, celebrate that little no, and invite conflict to the table as an unwelcome guest who, with the right etiquette, becomes a courteous conversation partner rather than a fierce. Number 5. Chasing applause, losing self-respect. You've been taught that a round of applause is the ultimate reward. You lean into every compliment as though it fills an inner void, like pouring water into a leaky bucket. At first, you bask. In the glow, your chest puffs up, your mood soars, but before long you find yourself teetering on a whiplash of expectations. Every new great job becomes the bar you must clear, and soon you're performing stunts of agreeability just to keep the crowd clapping. You become a mimic in a hall of mirrors, reflecting back whatever validation you think people want to see. The Stoics saw through this masquerade. They knew that external praise is as fleeting as a soap bubble riding a breeze. When you build your self-worth on that bubble, you're destined to burst. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the applause of the crowd is no help. He cultivated an inner voice that weighed his choices against principles rather than public opinion. You, on the other hand, might find yourself scrolling through messages to see who liked your last post, or replaying a conversation to remember every word of praise you received. It's exhausting, and it steals your freedom. Imagine being a circus performer who stands on a tightrope, balancing for hours because the crowd's cheer keeps you from falling. The moment the applause dies, you wobble. That is precisely how people-pleasing driven by approval feels, perpetually precarious. You fear silence more than you fear missteps, but silence holds no threat to your integrity. It simply reminds you that your worth isn't up for debate. Every time you chase applause, you divert your energy away from living in accordance with your values. You trade authenticity for temporary euphoria, and you end up alone, holding your own mask. The remedy lies in turning the mirror inward. Seek not the reflections of many, but the clarity of one, your own. Cultivate a standard of behavior so deeply rooted in reason that it requires no external trophy. Practice the quiet habit of asking, does this action align with my principles? Rather than, will this action make them happy? That simple shift changes the game. You stop performing for an audience and start living for yourself. The applause may fade, but your self-respect grows stronger with each choice grounded in virtue. 6. Validation as a poisoned gift. Validation feels like a gift. It warms you, it uplifts you, it makes you believe you matter. Yet the Stoics recognize that a gift offered with strings attached is a poisoned chalice. When approval comes only if you behave a certain way, you become indebted to the giver. You find yourself shackled to expectations that may not even align with who you truly are. The moment you step outside those bounds, the gift reveals its sting. Guilt, shame, fear. Picture accepting a beautiful necklace only to discover its clasp locks around your neck. You can wear it, you can admire it, but you cannot remove it without pain. That is the trap of conditional praise. You learn to muzzle your quirks, to soften your opinions, to project an image that pleases. Over time, the real you retreats, afraid. Any slip will unleash the sharp clasp of disapproval. And disapproval, you remember, feels like a blade at the throat. Seneca warned that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The terror of disappointing others often exists only in your mind. inflated by the fear of losing that gift of approval. In real life, most of the time people are far more forgiving and even curious about your genuine self. They want authenticity, not a polished performance. When you present your true face, you might surprise them and yourself with how much more meaningful your interactions become. Breaking free from this poisoned gift means redefining what constitutes a true gift. Genuine validation comes from yourself first, the quiet satisfaction of having acted with integrity. That is a gift you can open and relive every day, with no danger of a toxic clasp. When others notice and affirm that internal peace, it's a bonus, not a necessity. You can sip from that well without guzzling from it, because you're never truly thirsty. So the next time someone offers praise, receive it graciously, then place it on the shelf alongside your principles. Acknowledge the warmth it brings, but don't let it dictate your next move. Practice detaching the feeling of worth from the giver of the gift. Smile at the compliment, then return your focus to the unspoken question. Am I living in line with my highest values? If the answer is yes, you have already validated yourself. If it's no, no clap in the world can fill that gap. By refusing to chase applause and by recognizing conditional praise as a poisoned gift, you dismantle two more walls of your self-imposed prison. You reclaim your power to choose how you define success and worth. In doing so, you edge closer to the true Stoic ideal, a life lived by reason, unshaken by the yawning peaks and valleys of others' opinions. As you move forward, carry these insights like a torch, illuminating the path toward the remaining traps and the freedom waiting just beyond. Number 7, shrinking yourself to keep the peace. You've become a master at making yourself small. You lean in so others can't see you clearly. You speak in quiet tones as though your own voice might offend the silence. You tuck your opinions away behind a polite nod and a smile. You think you're preserving peace, but with every millimeter you shrink. You trade presence for permission. The world might feel calmer around you, but inside you become a ghost motion without substance. Imagine attending a karaoke night and singing so softly that even your microphone feels sorry for you. That is exactly how it feels to hold back who you are. You tell yourself that if you keep your head down, you'll slip by unnoticed, free from confrontation. But invisibility is not safety. It's deprivation. You deprive your friends and colleagues of your insight, your flair, your laughter. Most tragically, you deprive yourself of the simple joy of being seen. The Stoics celebrated authenticity. They taught that virtue is not a hidden treasure, but a beacon you hold aloft for all to witness. To live in accordance with reason means speaking and acting openly without apology. When you shrink yourself, you dim that beacon. Notice the everyday signs of your retreat, your shoulders rising toward your ears, your tone dipping 2 octaves when conflict looms, your sentences strewn with "I'm sorry," as though you committed a crime by voicing a thought. These are your soul's protest. Honor them, stand up straight. Allow your voice to fill the room as though it belongs there, because it does. You will feel the tremor of discomfort. Celebrate it. That tremor means you're reclaiming space you once ceded. It means your boundaries are reasserting themselves. Here's a Stoic tip with a dash of humor. Imagine you're a squid at a wine tasting, hiding ink whenever someone pours too much. It gets messy. Your ink stains the tablecloth and nobody enjoys the swirl in their glass. Instead, be a bold octopus, arms spread, proud of each colorful tentacle. Your ideas, your quirks, your laughter, those are your tentacles. Wield them confidently. Grace the table with your full presence. That's genuine peace. Harmony born not of erasure, but of authentic expression. Number 8, giving until you have nothing left. Once you stop shrinking, a new challenge may arise, the urge to overgive until you have nothing left. You shift from "I'll stay silent to keep the peace" to "I'll give everything so no one can fault me." You volunteer for every project, you stay late to help colleagues you barely know, you send midnight texts to cheer up people you haven't seen in months. You become the superhero of generosity, except your cape is threadbare, your sneakers untied, and your coffee cup is empty. Even heroes need rest. Without it, you collapse in your own origin story. True Stoic generosity. isn't an endless waterfall. It's a reservoir you steward wisely. You measure inflow and outflow. When you pour out too freely, you leave the reservoir dry, and every small request becomes a crisis. You show up at 10 appointments, but you miss the one that truly matters. The appointment with yourself. You wonder why others don't appreciate your midnight pep talks, but without reserves, you can't savor their gratitude. You're too busy clutching the empty cup of "I did all this for you" to taste any sweetness. Picture your mind as a great oak with deep roots. When you give endlessly, you erode the soil around your roots until they lie exposed to wind and rain. The oak may stand tall through one storm, but eventually even the strongest tree topples. You must nurture the soil, water yourself, soak up quiet sunlight, and replenish inner nutrients. That way, when gusts of demand arise, you have the stability to stand unwavering. Here's a light-hearted test. Treat your generosity as though it's fuer pizza. You wouldn't give away all the slices to friends, leaving none for yourself to savor. You'd set aside at least 1 or 2 slices for your own delight. The crispy edge, the perfect cheese pull, the pepperoni that whispers, "This is yours." Those slices are your solo morning coffee, your evening walk without notifications, your 5 minutes staring at a blank wall, letting thoughts wander. Guard them, savor them. They are not selfish, they are indispensable. Break free by setting a giving quota. Before you dive into helping, pause for a breath and ask, am I giving from a place of fullness or from a fear of saying no? If it's fear, step back. Refill your reservoir with quiet reflection or a simple "not right now." Then re-engage only when you have something left to share. Over time, you'll find that generosity from a place of abundance has more impact. Your words land with warmth, your actions resonate with sincerity, and you remain energized rather than eroded. By reclaiming your space and rhythm, by refusing to shrink yourself, and by limiting your giving to what sustains rather than depletes, you dismantle 2 more walls of the prison you once built. You step into a life where your presence is felt, your voice is heard, and your generosity is a gift, not an obligation. This is authentic, sustainable freedom. This is the Stoic way. Continue with me, and soon you'll navigate the remaining traps with the confidence of someone. Chapter 9. Awakening the Stoic Within. You have dismantled 4 traps and reclaimed pieces of your freedom. Now imagine a quiet dawn breaking inside you, the soft glow of reason stirring beneath the surface. This is the awakening of the Stoic within. It begins not with a thunderous proclamation, but with a gentle question. Who are you when no one is watching? Strip away the applause, the obligations, the endless cycle of concessions. Beneath them lies your true self, untroubled by others' demands and unafraid to stand alone. This awakening is like discovering a secret garden in the midst of a sprawling city. At first it feels fragile, its paths overgrown with habits you thought were kindness but were really chains. You must clear away those vain self-doubt, fear of rejection, the notion that your worth depends on a crowd. Cultivate the soil with daily reflections. In the early morning stillness, turn your gaze inward. Notice the stirrings of resentment when you feel overextended. Observe the tightening in your chest at the mere thought of saying no. These sensations are not obstacles, but signposts pointing toward parts of the garden left untended. The Stoics taught that inner peace is the most valuable treasure. Seneca wrote that true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. In a world that chases tomorrow's likes or next week's approval, that message sounds revolutionary, yet it is simple. When you awaken the Stoic within, you learn to find joy in the act of living, not in the validation that follows. You practice gratitude for each moment, free from compulsion. You rejoice in the calm that follows a reasoned choice rather than a knee-jerk concession. And humor helps. Picture your inner garden as a slightly over-enthusiastic gardener, too eager to prune. He snips every branch that might inconvenience the lawn until it looks like a bonsai tree with no character. You gently guide him to let certain wildflowers bloom. Some disagreement, a touch of boundary, even the occasional firm refusal can give the garden color and texture. Allow contradictions to coexist. Your principles need not be perfect hedges. They can be living expressions of who you are. As this new self takes root, you will notice an unspoken shift in your interactions. You listen more deeply, not out of habit, but from genuine curiosity. You speak with calm confidence, not to dominate, but to share insight. You respond rather than react, choosing words that reflect your reasoned judgment. The Stoic within is not a rigid statue carved from marble, but a dynamic presence shaped by intentional choices. Cultivate this presence through small daily practices. Before you open your phone in the morning, ask yourself what one value you want to embody today. Before you enter a meeting or a conversation, take a breath and align your intentions. When you feel the pull of old reflexes of people-pleasing or avoidance, pause and observe. That pause is your garden's gate, your opportunity to choose again. Over time, these moments of mindful intention turn into steady calm. Number 10. The art of the authentic. Know, once you have woken the Stoic within, you realize that the single most powerful word in your vocabulary is still the simple no. But now, it is not the fearful no of constraint, but the authentic no of clarity. It is a word spoken from a place of integrity, a declaration that you serve reason before reaction. Mastering this art transforms no from a barrier into a bridge that carries you toward genuine connection. An authentic no conveys respect for both parties. It says, I understand your request and I honor my own boundaries. Think of it as offering a clear and kindly refusal rather than withholding consent behind vague apologies. Instead of mumbling, I'm sorry, but I can't, you might say, thank you for considering me, and I must decline to keep my focus on existing commitments. That phrasing acknowledges the other person and honors your own limits. It carries no guilt, no edge of hostility, just a balanced recognition of both needs. This art is not about perfect wording or memorized scripts. It is about the inner alignment you have cultivated. When the Stoic within is alert, you feel no temptation to over-explain or beg forgiveness. You stand in your own center, and the words flow naturally. To practice, choose a small request that you feel comfortable declining. Pause before responding. Feel the weight of the choice in your chest. Then speak clearly without rush or qualification. Notice how your body straightens, your voice steadies, and a sense of relief washes over you. If humor helps you relax, imagine you are auditioning for the role of most reasoned human. Your performance requires only one line, a calm, honest no. Deliver it with the conviction of someone who knows the script by heart. You may find that the other person smiles, taken aback by your composed authenticity. They appreciate the clarity more than a shaky yes that leaves both of you guessing. Understand that an authentic no also leaves room for future possibilities. You might add, I can't this week, but let's revisit next month. You separate the request from the person, indicating that your refusal is about timing or capacity, not a rejection of them. It transforms a potential door slam into a sliding screen that can open later. Mastering this art requires practice. You will stumble, you will feel awkward, you might even crack a joke in the moment. My calendar and I are in a committed relationship. This week to lighten the tension. That's fine, the heart of the matter is choosing purpose over reflex. The heart of the matter is honoring the Stoic within who knows that a clear no today safeguards a sincere yes tomorrow. As you refine this skill, you will find that your relationships deepen. People learn to trust your word. They no longer wonder if your yes comes with a hidden no inside. You free yourself from the trap of endless obligations and step into the steady ground of authentic exchange. That ground supports you as you move on to the final 3 traps and beyond, confident that your voice matters. Number 11th, building your inner citadel. Imagine that within you stands an ancient fortress of stone and steel. Its ramparts rise above the tumult of daily demands, its gates firmly set against every intrusion born of fear or obligation. This inner citadel is not an escape from the world, but a stronghold where your reason rules. The walls are composed of your convictions, the towers are your boundaries. The drawbridge lowers only for choices aligned with your principles. Constructing this citadel begins with a single stone, a commitment to clarity. Notice the moments when you feel your resolve waver. Perhaps someone asks for more of your time than you can spare or tries to bend your judgment with flattery. In those moments, place another stone. Call on the Stoic within. You will act according to reason, not expectation. Each no you speak lays another block. Each refusal of poisoned praise cements the mortar. Every time you step into conflict rather than shrink, you reinforce the tower's foundation. Humor can be your mason's trowel. Picture yourself wearing a Trojan helmet every morning, fully prepared for the siege of others' demands. You polish it by reminding yourself that you do not have to defend every criticism or meet every plea. When someone tries to storm the walls with guilt or obligation, greet them like a kindly doorman. I see your request, but I must remain on guard. The image may feel absurd at first, but laughter loosens the tension in your shoulders and reminds you that sovereignty begins with lightness. As the citadel takes shape, you will notice an inner calm. You carry the weight of fewer hidden resentments because your fortress no longer harbors unspoken concessions. You stand taller, knowing that every gate closed on a trivial demand protects your most precious resources, your time, your energy, your integrity. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship of your own spirit. Number 12. Daily practices for unshakable freedom. A fortress left unattended will crumble. To keep your citadel strong, cultivate daily rituals that reinforce its walls. Begin each morning with a moment of focused intention. Before checking messages or tasks, close your eyes and visualize the day's challenges as gentle waves against your ramparts. Notice them without allowing any to breach your walls without reason. Declare silently which invitations you will welcome and which you will decline. Throughout the day, set small checkpoints. Before agreeing to something, pause and breathe. Feel the foundation beneath you. Ask yourself, does this serve my highest aim today? If the answer is no, the drawbridge remains up. When you catch yourself slipping into old patterns, softening your voice, forcing a smile, imagining approval as oxygen, laugh at the mental rerun. Remind yourself that freedom is built one choice at a time. In the evening, review the day's victories and breaches. Celebrate every time you guarded your time or spoke an authentic no. Acknowledge any moments when you weakened the walls, then consider how to reinforce them tomorrow. Write these reflections in a simple journal. Over weeks, you will see how small stones laid daily become an immovable fortress. Lighten this practice with a touch of play. Assign each boundary a color, and imagine painting the wall that color each time you honor it. Watch your fortress bloom into a vibrant mosaic of choices aligned with your values. Let this imagery remind you that freedom is not gray and joyless. It is the bright interior of a soul living by reason. By building your inner citadel and tending it through these daily practices, you claim a freedom that is unshakable. Your no resonates like a well-struck bell. Your presence shines without apology, and your generosity flows from a reservoir replenished each morning. This is the culmination of the Stoic path away from people-pleasing. You stand within, walls you have raised yourself, walls that guard not against kindness, but against the subtle forms of compulsion that once held you captive.